Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second round of this Monkey Mafia esports season. Tonight, we're at the Suzuka International Racing Course in Japan for what should be a very entertaining Grand Prix and one of the world's most respected and revered circuits in the world. The only circuits on the Formula One calendar with a figure eight kind of configuration. There's a lot of ins and outs to this circuit that the drivers will have to negotiate tonight, and always the looming threat of rain as well. Hotspot on the call with you. 19 drivers on the grid tonight. Should be a very fun one to watch here. And after last week in Hungary, we're ready. Last week, if you remember, Macho very much took a good commanding win last time out, and we'll have to wait and see if we get some new contenders towards the top today. Second round here of the season of, I believe, it's probably 15 that we've got going here. Can I just look at the schedule? I should have all these things on hand. I don't. Another thing that I don't have are the championship standings. Neither the Drivers' or Constructors' Championships have been posted. Nor have the results from last week, so that's a little odd. Anyways, 19 drivers on track tonight. Should be a very fun one here. Let's see who our first one out on track is going to be. Reminder, this is how the schedule looks. Hungary last week for round 1, Japan tonight, naturally. Brazil next week. Round 4, Miami. 5 and 6 is Imola and Baku. 7th is Qatar. Round 8, Las Vegas. Round 9 is Zandvoort. And round 10, is China. Sorry, there's a little oddity in the scheduled image there. Apologies for that. Looks like the Williams of Mackie is going to be first out on track. Round 11 being Canada, round 12 being Spa, round 13 being Mexico, round 14 France, and rounding out the season at Silverstone at round 15. Mackey's going to be the first driver on track tonight in the Williams. Following him is going to be the Mercedes of Caesar, Stevie DeBest in the Red Bull as well. Not a lot of drivers choosing to get out on track early here. Only 4 at the moment on track. As now Ghost, the second Red Bull, coming out on track. But it looks as if Mackey's going to be our first driver here. I mean, this track, one of the best circuits in the world. And I mean, it's another one of these old school type circuits that we see. A lot of these on calendar as well. I mean, again, Brazil next week. That's, as much as that's a good track, it is old school for what it is. Imola's there. I mean, we've got Zandvoort as well. Canada. Spa as well, I would add to that list. Just really classic tracks that have so many memories in Formula One, and I'm very glad that we've got ourselves what's looking to be a very solid schedule this season. Mackie kind of taking his time here. He's got clean track ahead of him, so he knows he doesn't need to go too quickly, and I think that's why nobody's overtaken him either. They want to kind of take as much time as they can, get to grips with the circuits. As Mackie making his way down the backstretch now, making his way towards the 130R corner. I would think one of the more infamous corners on this track, but heading now into the final chicane, the Casio Triangle, as it's referred to. And it looks like it will be the Williams of Mackie to start things off here. Well, as he exits the final corner, down the pit straight he goes. Only the one DRS section on this track. It is down this pit straight. I think you could probably get away with having one down the backstretch, but they don't have one there. Into the first corner now. It's a kind of a cambered corner, double apexed right-hander that's is shaped differently throughout both parts. Through into the S's now. A common conception with this is that you have to take these corners differently every time you approach them, depending on your entrances and exits. Through Dunlop corner now, got to be careful of the blind hill atop. Oversteer is common there. We might see some action there today. Through Degner 1, holds exit nicely, and down through Degner 2, and then under the bridge, and up towards the hairpin coming up now. Fun little corner this. Couple of lines on the outside and the inside as well. Usually makes for some overtaking in. 200R now. Heading towards the spoon curve up next. Definitely a double apex left-handed corner. Got to be careful of track limits on exit. And then as you exit the second part of the corner, you got to be careful of track limits there. Down the backstretch now. which we don't often see a lot of moves made in the 130R. Now let's see if he's able to take it flat. Pretty much. I remember the last game, there was at least a lift there. Not quite anymore. Into the final chicane, the Casio triangle now. I tell you what, he's holding his line very, very well. This is... Oh, that's a big wiggle, though. Getting on the throttle, you do tend to get that. It's a 126.881. I would assume that Williams could have a shout for pole later on in the session. That lap, at least that final corner, was not as clean as it could have been. So a little bit, I would think, on his part, it's going to be upsetting that he didn't get the most out of it, but you never know. DB DeBest has gone P2, his teammate P3 at the moment. Jeezy in the Mercedes, P3, who has separated the two Red Bulls. Next up looks to be the Alfa Romeo of Funky Breezy, as he makes his way out of turn 18, I think, is officially. 131.812, he's at P6 at the moment. Next up, the Aston Martin of... No, I still don't have any fucking clue. Sorry, that was... I shouldn't have said that. I still have no clue how to pronounce this guy's name. Vaibi? I don't know. I think we'll just call him V for now. That probably makes more sense. Well, anyways, V's about a second and a half off here of Mackie. Next up to the line, it looks like Anime Boy, although, well, he's on his outlap here. We do have one of the Alpines coming around as George Mazda guy to start one. We then have the Ferrari of, it's going to be Gab, making his way out of the final corner. DRS activated, hugs the bottom of the track. 129.214, currently occupies P5. And this is kind of what we were seeing in Hungary as well. One or two drivers occupying the top of the grid, but everywhere else, from about P4, P5 on back, was very, very closely contested. So maybe that's what we're going to see today. Slayer Eyes has gone P7, 1/1000th away from the 130 range, 129.999. Sounds like the phone number to a crappy law firm. Anyways, across the line now is the McLaren of Jacob. He's actually gone P5. The Mercedes behind him of Caesar has gone second in that exchange. Takes 2.5 seconds off of his time. Now is within a second of the pole time at a 127.873. Pretty solid lap there. Next up, looking, I believe Jeezy's going to be on his way in. Yes, he is, as well as the other Red Bull of DB DeBest on his way. Most likely, he's just invalidated that previous lap. The Aston Martin of V coming in here, most likely. I believe we're looking at the Alfa Romeo of Anime Boy about to start one here. One of the final drivers out of this first kind of opening section to... put together a timed lap. We do have one of the Alpines making his way around. It's George Mazda guy. Let's go along with him. He's making his way into the Casio triangle now. Looks like he holds it well. Does he get caught out by the bump going through the final corner? No, he doesn't. DRS activated, and across the line he goes P10, 132.78. Behind him, next up, I believe, it is that of Mackie making his way in. One of the Ferraris coming in. I believe that was Gab who decided to come in. His teammate of Gonzalez is on an outlap here. Spaceman starting a timed lap now. I believe is that one of the Mercedes drivers. I kind of doubt Caesar's on a timed lap here. No, he's not. He's coming in here. So we'll go along with Spaceman for the time being, making his way through the S's. Holding it through 5th gear here. Now, sometimes you'll see drivers go down to even 3rd or lower through those couple of corners, up the hill through Dunlop corner. He's handled it well, a little bit tentative going through there, into the grass on the outside, through Degner 1, and now through Degner 2. Exits the corner, up towards the hairpin now. We do also have the Alfa Romeo of Anime Boy on a time lap here, rather. 10 minutes to go in the session. He's making his way down the backstretch towards 130R now. He's got a purple Sector 2 to his name. The McLaren of Zach and Funky Breezy now on track, as well as one of the Aston Martins, an Alpine, and a Red Bull, as well as an AlphaTauri, a Williams, another AlphaTauri, and a Ferrari making their ways on track. Anime Boy to the line here. He's gone P6, 129.106, not a bad lap at all. Next up, I believe, is the Alpine of George Mazda guy, who has invalidated, so he'll be coming in here most likely. Oh, a bit of a late decision, but he's done it. Spaceman making his way into the chicane now. Let's see if Spaceman can finish off this lap here in good form. Out of the final corner and across the line, he's going to be P13, 132.663. But at least he's got a lap under his belt. Anybody to DNF after this could find Spaceman starting a couple places up. We do have a lot of drivers on track now, all but 7 on track at the moment in some capacity or another. Next driver around for a timed lap will be Funky Breezy. Let's see if the Alfa Romeo has anything here. He's about 5 seconds off the pace at the moment. Across the line he goes, his lap beginning. We have the McLaren of, I believe it's that of Zach. Starting one behind. We haven't had a chance to see Zach today, nor Reimer, so these are a couple of laps I'm going to be keeping an eye on here. It looks like we've had one of the Aston Martins cross the line. It's not that of Spaceman. It must be V who's gone third, or at least may have stayed third. Zach making his way into the S's now. A little bit too much grass there. Oh, into the wall! Only just. I don't even really think he hit it that hard. That was actually probably best case scenario there for the McLaren in question. We'll go along with Reimer now, who has yet to put together a timed attempt as he's making his way through the S-curves, up through Dunlop now. Relatively clear track ahead of him. The Aston Martin of V is not really going to get in his way, I don't think. Degner 1 has done well. Purple Sector 1. Degner 2 a little bit wide through the corner. Not bad. I don't think he's lost any time. Up now towards the hairpin. Does he choose to keep the long way around, or does he hang it close to the apex? It's down to the apex for him. Exits well. A little bit of oversteer, not much. Through 200R. What did that say? 7.5 minutes remaining in the session here. Yep, 7:15 roughly. Into the spoon curve. Does well. Not a lot of outside curve being used on either section of the corner. I'll tell you what, this is looking a great lap here from the Alpine. Let's see what he's at when he hits the timing line here. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Purple Sector 2. Yes, it is. 1:11.057. This is looking a great lap here. Can he hold 130R well? Yes, he does. Into the KCO triangle now. Into the triangle at a 1:19 when he hits the apex of the first bit. This is looking like it could very well be a great lap to be had. Down to the line as much as he can. It's going to be in the mid to late 127s. He's gone second. 127.786. And it's second place for Reimer, one of only 3 drivers at the moment to be within that second of Mackey's pole time, which is still standing. He is, however, a 10th slower through Sector 2. So I doubt this is going to be much of an improvement here, and he's going to go in. Anime Boy is now retired. What time is that? His 129 is going to be, well, at least acceptable for him. V has gone 5th as Caesar. No, wait, who was it that just came across the line? I'm not entirely sure. Somebody has just made their way up there. I'm not entirely sure. But DB DeBest resides 3rd, Caesar 4th, V 5th, Gab has gone 6th. That was probably what we were seeing there. I don't know if this is a timed lap for the Ferrari or not. No, it isn't. McLaren of Jacob starting one here. We've got the Red Bull, I think, of DB DeBest about to make his way through. No, it's actually his teammate of Ghost. Out of the final corner, 4.5 tenths better through Sector 2. Across the line he goes, it's P8. 128.808. Improves by 4.5 tenths. Not bad at all for the Red Bull there. Slayer Eyes making his way through the S's. Next up looks to be one of the Alfa Romeos. It's going to be Funky Breezy, but this is not a timed lap from him. Perhaps is he starting a new one here? Nope, he's on low fuel. That will be it for the Alfa Romeo for this time. Aston Martin of V making his way round. He's invalidated, unfortunately, so that's going to be the end of it. AlphaTauri of Reimer on what appears to be low fuel. He's got the AlphaTauri coming up behind. I believe that was Red 92 Mask, who's about a second and a bit slow through Sector 2. He's going to be on his way in. I think he's taken a trip through the gravel at some point recently. You can kind of see on the tires there. Under 5 minutes to go in the session now. Ferrari of Gab making his way through the final couple corners. He'll be coming in, though. Yep. Haas of Slayer Eyes making his way through 130R. I can't quite tell. This is probably not going to be a timed lap for him. Yeah, I'm going to probably say no to that. He's going to be in the pits here shortly. Yep, there he is. McLaren of Jacob, unfortunately, has invalidated somewhere along the way on that lap. The Red Bull of Ghost is slow here. That's not a timed lap from him. I'm thinking Tin Man might be on a timer here. No, it doesn't appear that he is. I think he's going to be... He may start another one here. It looks as if he's conserved his battery for the most part. Yeah, 84%. Let's see if Tin Man stays out here. Yes, he does. Only 4 drivers out on track. But the Mercedes of Caesar probably coming in here. No, it looks as if Caesar stayed out. Is this a time lap from Caesar? Let's see, it kind of looks as if he is. He's not letting anything off into the first corner here. Let's see. No recharge light on as far as I can tell, so this is probably going to be a timed attempt here from the Mercedes. Next up is the McLaren of Zach, who has yet to put together a timed attempt. Remember, he had a bit of a slide going through the first bit of the S's on his initial timed attempt. He's got 3.5 minutes to put something together here. And our provisional pole sitter of Mackie out on track now, making his way in towards 130R. Zach's going to have the Haas of DJ in front of him there. I don't think the Haas really got in his way. 3:15 to go. Zach this time making his way better through the S's than he did on his previous occasion. Looking pretty okay. Stays through 5th gear there. Maybe a little bit tentative. He knows he has to be careful. Oh, and the back end really wanted to come around there, and that's probably going to hurt his time. He looks as if he's going to keep going, though. He needs to get a time on the board. He hasn't really hurt out that much from that wiggle. But it's certainly not helped him, so we'll keep an eye on that. Next up, we do have the AlphaTauri of Tin Man, who 8.5 tenths of a second faster through Sector 2. This is looking a great time if he's able to keep it up here. Into the KCO Triangle. It looks like he's going to be around the P10 range by my estimations. Out of the corner. Final corner now. Stays to the outside, try to carry as much speed as he can, and yet, wow, good guess me. P10 for him, 128, 856. For the AlphaTauri now, who, by the way, if we're looking at this, we've got less than a tenth of a second, less than 5/100ths of a second between P8 to P10. That's incredible. 2:15 remain in the session now. We've got the McLaren of Zach making his way. Round through. The KCO Triangle now, I don't believe this is going to be worthy of the top 10 here. No, I'm going to say no, it isn't, but they'll have a time on the board at least, and it's going to be P15, 131.033. For the McLaren in question, we do have Spaceman not on track. We have the AlphaTauri of V. Red 92 Mask. Is that a retirement on track, or is that a crash? I think that might genuinely be a crash. Can we go along with whoever it is? Yep, that car is way outside of the circuit there. That's exiting Dunlop, about heading into the first Degner. That car no longer in one piece, and that'll be the end of the session for that AlphaTauri. Mackie making his way through. It looks as if he's going to have to start another one here. He has invalidated that previous attempt. Recharge light is on. Let's see if he gets going here. Less than 90 seconds remain. Caesar has retired. I don't know where that is. That's the Mercedes, probably in the pit lane, I'm assuming. Mackie starting a new one now. The Haas behind of, I believe that's Slayer Eyes, starting one here. 5 drivers down this pit straight. We'll have to see if traffic is any problem. Zach has retired. That's at the hairpin. That's a really bold place to go off from that car. Has gone straight to the barriers on the outside. That is a very odd place to go off track. V going through 130R now. We've got the Alpine of Reimer about to start one here. He's got 45 seconds remaining. Coming up next, one of the Alfa Romeos. It's Funky Breezy about to start one. Behind him, as we said, the Aston Martin of V making his way out of the spoon curve. I believe, yep, that's Reimer coming to the line now. The other AlphaTauri of Tin Man coming into the pits here. His day is done. Slayer Eyes was retired that time, being at the hairpin as well. He's gone way off to the outside. 2 drivers there being claimed in very odd parts of the track, has to be said. And, well, that is slightly alarming. DJE Flat making his way through 130R. He'll be one of the final drivers to put together a timed attempt here. I don't believe he can make it back to the line. This is going to be his attempt. 5 seconds remain. Bit of a wiggle there as he goes through the bump, exiting the final corner. He does make it back to the line, and he makes it P5. So, Ghost, Tin Man, Jeezy, Spaceman, and Gonzalez will not get the opportunity to put together timed attempts. We do have Reimer making his way into the hairpin. He's 0.2 of a second quicker through Sector 1. Mackie has not been able to improve. Caesar, who is no longer on track. So, we may be looking at a situation where that time could be in trouble. The Alpine now, that's the Ferrari of Gab across the line. George Mazdaguy's gone P14. DJE Flat making his way up through Dunlop curve. I don't believe this is a timed attempt from him. No, it isn't. So, next up, I would say on a serious time lap is that of Reimer to the Sector 2 timing line now. He is quicker through Sector 2 by 0.2 of a second. He has probably gained 0.4 over the course of this lap. That'll give him enough for second place. Let's see, can he hold out the back end of this lap well? Through the final corner now, no sign of oversteer. Down to the inside, and across the line goes Reimer. P2, 127.438, improves by 3.5 tenths there. It's not enough for pole, but a very good attempt. That one could keep that Alpine on the front row. Funky Breezy 7 tenths of a second quicker through Sector 2, but that car wiggled horrendously coming out of the chicane there, and it's only P12 for the Alfa Romeo. V up to the line now, and that car, unfortunately, well, it's not going to find the end of the session here. He has retired on track. Coming up next is the Ferrari of Gab, who's already put together his timed attempt, so it's going to be P. Gonzalez, who has done that as well. Do we have the Haas of flat? Yes, we do, but it's not a timed lap attempt from him. So that is the end of the session. Mackey taking pole by 5.5 tenths, Reimer second, Caesar third, DB to best fourth. The top four within a second. And then all the way from P5 down to P11 within the next second. That's a good-looking session, that. Always the threat of rain involved as well. We could get ourselves some adverse weather. We haven't seen anything in the Discord saying we won't. We'll have to wait and see, but good result there for the Williams. That is absolutely what he needed. Who are we waiting for here? Oh, it's just DJ getting his way into the pit lane. Yep. So your starting grid then for the Japanese Grand Prix. It's going to be the Williams of Mackey on pole by half a second. Reimer second, Caesar third, DB to best fourth. Only the top four within the first second of the pole time. P5 down to P11 within the next second of DJ Flat 5th, Gab 6th, V 7th, Slayerized 8th, Ghost 9th, 10th is Jacob, and 11th is Tin Man. Jacob, by the way, has lap on the mediums. Good attempt from him. Funky Breezy 12th, Anime Boy 13th, Jeezy 14th, Mazda Guy 15th, Zach 16th, Red 92 Mask 17th, Spaceman, the final driver with the timed attempt, and P. Gonzalez, who didn't get that opportunity. Well, Mackey, for the time being, looks as if he's got himself a fair shot at winning this Grand Prix, but still a lot of laps left to come here. The Grand Prix yet to get underway, and always the threat of weather. We'll see what happens. Well, I'm not actually sure if the formation lap is on or off tonight, but I'm going to hope that it's on. I mean, I don't know. A couple of leagues nowadays that just, I know, don't have formation lap on. I don't know. We have yet to begin going here. I'm thinking we're just waiting. Funky Breezy looks as if... No, that was at 8:30, so I don't know what's happening here. Perhaps just waiting for something. I don't know. Typically you do allow the time for the setups to go on, but we're looking at a couple of minutes here now, so any minute. And it looks like formation... No, it's not the formation lap. 3, 4, and eventually 5 lights. Goodness me, the jump scare that we had. And they are off, and it looks as if the Williams of Mackey does get off the line well. Reimer second was not able to get ahead of the Williams in question, but as they make their way through the first corner, we got a good battle going here. DJ Flat and DB to best side by side through the opening corner. The Red Bull has gotten around the inside, although I think maybe was their contact made. Something to look out for there. The Red Bull of Ghost dropping positions here. He's side by side with Zach. Big accident at the back. 2 cars off. We've got Anime Boy and George Mazda Guy off then, and I think now the Red Bull losing spots as well. Couple of drivers off. The track stays green. No loss of front wing visible for those two. Jeezy getting around Jacob as they make their way up through Dunlop, and now Funky Breezy goes off. Both Alfa Romeos having accidents on this opening lap. Mackey will lead the procession into the hairpin now. It looks as if behind we've got the Haas of DJ trying to make his way to the inside. Nothing quite there, although a very good attempt as he tried to make his way around Gab. And a lot of good battling happening here in the early stages. 11-13, the pit window for the softs to the mediums. A lot of drivers have chosen the mediums. 13-17 it is the window for the mediums. Keep that in mind. The back end of the grid has done most of the moving about here as Gig Gonzalez up 6 spots off the start. V is now within 0.2 of a second of DJ as they make their way towards 130R. As the grid, you can see it kind of weaves back and forth down the straight there. And now heading into the Casio Triangle, it looks as if Gab is going to have a good advantage over the two Haas in question. Slayer eyes deep into the corner, and the back of the car goes round. Maybe as he had help from behind, or did he just whack the throttle on the way in? It didn't look as if there was anybody behind him initially, but with the way that he went around, I'm assuming there may have been a little bit of foul play involved. I'm not entirely sure. Caesar within 0.4 of a second of Reimer here. Reimer a second behind the top spot of Mackey, who took the lead off the start from pole and hasn't looked back since. Here's now Jeezy within 2.5 of V for the seventh spot. Looks as if that Mercedes has had a little bit of a difficult time going through the S's, now up through Dunlop Curve. Jacob may have a look at overtaking him there into the hairpin if they can get away well out of the second Degner. Through the first one they go. A little bit of wiggling about there for the McLaren. That wasn't the best way through that I've seen so far, and it looks as if the Mercedes is going to be all right into the corner. No sign of attack from the McLaren for the time being. So now the battle for second place is Caesar within 0.5 second of Reimer. DB the best in this as well, 6.5 behind Caesar. Once DRS gets into play, we might be seeing some overtakes made. Caesar goes wide through the apex of the spoon curve. Well, through the middle of it, not necessarily the apex. Down the back straight they go. Caesar's lost about an additional 10th back to the Alpine then. As down the straight they go in through 130R. Let's see, does Caesar try anything into the hairpin? Or not the hairpin, the chicane, whatever it is. No, it doesn't appear that he will. Who gets away better? Reimer. Oh, that's a bit of a wiggle there. Caesar could easily have a look down to the inside into the first corner. He's definitely using his battery here. Reimer using it in defense. Caesar, what's he going to do here? No, he's going to stay in behind Reimer. I think that was probably the better choice. He wasn't going to find the outside, and Reimer wasn't going to let him have the inside. Good defending there from the Alpine. It's still 0.3 of a second, and we'll go back with that in a minute. DJ within 0.3 of Gab here. This is for the 5th spot. Gab has made up the spot over the Haas for the time being, but I would argue that Haas might be just faster than the Ferrari if he could just get out ahead of him. No doubt on someone who's fast is the leader of Mackey, who has a 2.5 second advantage as he leads the procession into the hairpin now. Reimer could be under pressure from Caesar here in a couple of moments. Maybe once they get DRS down the pit straight, that's when the overtake might be made. Reimer's car looks better in the slow sector. I would argue Caesar has it better on the straight line. You can see now he's starting to catch up through 200R and into the spoon curve. This is where Reimer may start to pull ahead on exit. We'll have to wait and see. Yep, the gap there improved by about 1/10 of a second already. Yeah, I would argue that Alpine is better through the corners. The Mercedes, though, reeling him in down the straight. Well, I doubt he's going to have anything into 130R. That'd be ballsy if he did. He's going to take his time. DJ now could have a look at Gab as they make their way into the triangle. Looks to the outside. Maybe some contact there in the Haas. Definitely outbreaking the Ferrari there. Nicely done. And now the top 7 remain as they were since the beginning of the race. Here's Caesar down to the inside, and he'll get that spot on Reimer rather comfortably. Not even 500 meters before they get into the first corner. Nicely done for Caesar. Gab getting down the inside of DJ. DJ trying to outbreak him around the outside. Nothing for now. Good battling here for this 5th spot. This is involving the Aston Martin of V as well. Jeezy and Jacob trying to find a way into this battle. Perhaps if a mistake is made, either one of these drivers can capitalize. Don't forget, this is starting to allow Tin Man into the picture as they make their way through Dunlop corner now. Gab will lead them into the first Degner. It looks as if that car quite stable. DJ definitely willing to take some risks, it seems, as towards the back, I think, did the Mercedes of Jeezy get away slightly worse out of the second Degner as we have a yellow flag. It looks as if Ghost has done it coming out of the second Degner. Doesn't look as if he's hit anything, but that car taking back to the track now. Gets out on track before Spaceman. In fact, Anime Boy going to overtake Ghost. Slides through the corner, and well, at least in favor for Ghost. He slides up and into the corner and stays in the correct orientation. That was a best-case scenario accident there for the Red Bull. Going through 130R now, but into the KCO triangle is that of Reimer. He's got 3.5 tenths back to Caesar. DB DeBest has not necessarily played a role in this battle here, as, a little bit of contact there. A lot of contact between the three of them. V tries to shoot to the inside. DJ was squeezed in the middle, and Jacob, it was the Ferrari of Gab, had to go into the gravel, exiting the chicane. That one is going to be in the steward reports for sure. I don't know if that was just a gutsy move by V or what the case was, but there was a lot of contact between those three, and I'm a little surprised that all three of those drivers are still in driving order here, that those cars in good condition. I'm wondering, does Gab have any wing damage? None visible at least, but that doesn't always tell us the whole story. Really gutsy move into the corner there, trying to go 3 wide. Perhaps did DJ and Gab push up the circuit, and V had enough traction on the inside to try to get around there. Either way, that car pushed up the circuit and got into both of them at the end of it, and it looks like as if Gab goes around going through the first Degner. Yep, he's on the inside. Again, doesn't appear that he's hit anything, but not a good one for the Ferrari. He's lost a lot of places in these past lap and a half. Now along with Jacob here, half a second back to DJ. Reimer 0.6 of a second behind Caesar, and I tell you what, Reimer improving, but not by much. Again, we think that Alpine is better through the corners. The acceleration and the top speed arguably going in the way of the Mercedes ahead. The car that has both of it is the Williams of Mackey, who's out by 4.5 seconds already, only just beginning the 6th lap of the Grand Prix. Down the pit straight they go now. Does Jacob have anything down to the inside of the Haas of Flat? No, it's not going to happen. Flat's actually going to go a bit wide through the first couple of corners there, and, he did bottom out on the curb going through the first 2 corners, and I'm a little surprised that car stayed on track with how much he did 50-50 grind the curb there. Well, into the 6th lap of the Grand Prix. And I was about to say, as DJ picking up a 3-second time penalty there, I think that's probably for going wide, exiting either the first or second Degner. It's a little bit of an odd place. I would assume the second is where he's got it. Well, we started the race with 19. We keep with 19. The amount of accidents we've had in that time is slightly... it's unrepresentative of why we still have all 19 cars on track. It's not exactly been the cleanest of races so far, but everybody is still up and running, and that's quite all right for me. We do have Zach to the back of GZ now, both cars having a bit of oversteer, going through the exit of the spoon curve, down the back straight now. I wouldn't expect anything to be made into the 130R here, but we'll have to see if Zach can do anything as they look to make their way towards the KCO triangle. No, he's not quite close enough, I'm afraid. Though not a bad look, a little bit of oversteer on the way out. Gonzalez nearly went around. Thankfully, the car was kept in order there. He will lose the spot to Red 92 Mask, but that certainly could have been worse, as those two will be side by side in the corner. Let's see, Zach doesn't have anything into turn 1 there. And P. Gonzalez trying to stick it around the outside, not quite enough. Jacob has 0.4 of a second back to DJ. This is for P6. Biggest mover of the race so far is that of P. Gonzalez. Up 7 spots so far at the expense of, both his teammate down 13 and a couple of other drivers having some accidents there. A 3-car battle into the hairpin now. DJ around the outside of V. Let's see if Jacob can fit his way into this. V's going to slide up the track in the way of the Haas, and it looks as if V's going to stay ahead for now. DJ having a 3-second penalty will kind of get in the way of this battle towards the back end of the race, although for now, everything stays all right. DJ trying to find it around the outside. V's going to switch high. DJ had to check up there. He wasn't quite close enough to make his way down for an overtake on the Aston Martin. Reimer now 9/10 of a second behind Caesar. DB DeBest has lost 3.5 seconds back to Reimer. 3/10 of a second here between P5, 6, and 7. Into the chicane they go. Contact there between the Aston Martin and the Haas once more. Remember, that happened a couple of laps ago. That's resulted in Gab losing out on that many positions. Jacob down to the inside now. Do the McLaren and the Haas work together and both get the Aston Martin here? DJ switches to the inside. Will he have the move? Yes, he does. Does he keep it is the next question. Oh, V with a big bit of oversteer there, and that's a huge accident down the straight. Zach has lost the car, and that is, well, going down the pit straight on the exit of the pit lane. That is rightfully so a safety car there. Front wing had littered the circuit, and that car was, and it's still there, well off to the inside, right about where that Lenovo sign is there on pit lane exit. That is absolutely a safety car. And McLaren, unfortunately, that will be the end of his day, and I'm just wondering what other driver collided with the McLaren in question. We're seeing a little bit of front wing gone from the Alpine of, oh no, maybe I was wrong. I thought there was front wing missing. As it turns out, there's not. I'm just looking to see. I mean, that was a huge accident. Well, Jeezy missing the entirety of his front wing. That would be my estimation there. That entire front wing is gone on the Mercedes. I'm just looking to see because there was definitely, you know, 2 cars involved in that, perhaps more. Because Zach was having a good race up until that point, and, I mean, going down the pit straight there, I mean, that's going to have to be reported, perhaps. I mean, I would be as surprised if it wasn't, especially if the culprit finishes the Grand Prix. Mackie into the pit lane now. I'm assuming he's going to go to the hards here, as with 20 laps to go. Let's see what the Williams decides to do. Caesar's on his way in. I'm assuming the hards for him. So does Reimer. DB DeBest, well, I tell you what, he's lost that car, exiting the chicane under safety car somehow. Well, he hasn't hit anything, but shades of Grosjean and George Russell there, perhaps. DJ, a 5-second penalty for speeding to the pit lane. That puts him up to 8, and that car will not serve the 5 into the pit box. This time it's a front wing being replaced for the Haas. As P. Gonzalez picking up 5 seconds now. A couple of pit lane speeding penalties in the early goings here. That's a little surprising. So the top 2 of Mackie and Caesar choose mediums. That's a bold decision. Reimer and the rest of the top 6 choose the hards. DJ goes to the mediums. Anime Boy stays out. He'll be up to P7. Sorry, P6. He stays out on his 8-lap old mediums in which he started the race with. George Mazda has chosen the intermediates. Is that on purpose, or is that a mistake? I mean, I don't see enough clouds to think that we're going to have the threat of rain. It's not cloudy enough yet to raise the alarm bells, it has to be said. I'm thinking that might be pure mistake. Unless, does he know that there's weather coming? I mean, this is a beautiful-looking day here in Suzuka, so we're going to have to assume that that was a mistake. Well, Mackie leads the safety car procession here. He's led since the off. And it's been a dominating day so far for the Williams. I'll step aside until the safety car sorts itself out. The safety car will make its way in at the end of this lap. A couple of drivers have pit again under that stop. It was DJ who pit to negate some of his 8 seconds of penalty. 5 have been taken off. George Mazda guy as well pits onto the correct compounds of tires. There's a look at the penalties so far. There's a look at the tires. It looks like the majority have gone to the hards. Everybody else has chosen, more people have chosen the softs than anything else. But Mackie will lead them out of the final corner here. Caesar really close. Green flag back in the air now, and Mackie gets a good jump as they make their way out of the final corner. Green flag back in the air. Who hasn't gotten a good away is the McLaren of Jacob, who now has the AlphaTauri of Red 92 mask down to the inside. He's going to be overtaken. Oh, contact there. Down the pit straight. Now, that's what happened with his teammate of Zach, who's no longer in the session. There was contact involved with somebody. I'm not entirely sure. Caesar within 0.4 of a second of Mackie here as they make their way through the opening sector here. DB DeBest within 2.5 of Reimer as they make their way up through Dunlop now. Reimer on the hards as well as the rest of the top 6 here. Oh, Anime Boy's gone off. I think that's a top Dunlop curve. Yes, it is. That's a blind corner, and that's why the safety cars came out. That Alfa Romeo shot to the inside of the circuit and blocks pretty much the entirety of the racing line on the inside. And, well, as much as I hate to see repetitive safety car like that, that is a valid one. Although maybe we could have gotten away with a virtual safety car as he was already at the back of the grid. Or, well, by the time he had crashed, a lot of cars had gotten past him. Only 2 had remained to get around the carcass. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe a weak safety car, but another one we have either way. And now let's see what Mackey and Caesar decide to do. We could see them attach another set of the medium tires. Remember, they've already completed their mandatory stop. They now have complete freedom with the tire strategy. Or perhaps do we see drivers that are on the hard tires currently go to the mediums? That may be my guess. Do we see drivers like Reimer, DB DeBest, V, and both the AlphaTauris come in and put on medium tires? And it looks as if Mackey and Caesar will both come in here. Reimer stays out and elects to play the long game. Now this is interesting because Mackey and Caesar are now in a position where they will have to work their way back up through the field. I'm just curious as to what tires they're going on here. It is a set of hards for the Williams. Is that right? Are those hards? It's hard to tell with the light that the car is in currently. I believe those are hards. Yes, they are. Caesar has gone back to another set of mediums. So Mackey on fresh hards it'll be actually better for him. And Caesar will have a lot of work to do, although being on fresh mediums, that'll help. But, I mean, it's a good pit stop to take for the long game, but for right now, they're pretty much still even on the tire strategy, man. They've done less than a lap of racing speed on these tires since the previous safety car came in. Speaking of safety car, I'll step aside again until then, but Reimer now inherits the lead. There, George Mazdaguy has picked up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, whilst under safety car. Slightly odd. He's making his way back to the grid now. I would assume we're going to have safety car in this time by. Reimer leads the Grand Prix. It's an Alpine sandwich that the entire grid finds themselves in, with Reimer atop the grid. Mazdaguy P17. We've lost Anime Boy and we've lost Zach in spectacular fashion, the both of them. Those were the causes of the two safety cars. We're about halfway through this Grand Prix. The safety car is yet to say if it's making its way in. There it is. So, the previous race leaders, top two at least, of Mackey and Caesar, currently occupy P12 and P13, a track which doesn't allow for a lot of overtaking. I think a second stop there may have been a mistake, but we'll see what happens as Reimer and the Alpine will lead the field back to green here. There he goes, going through the final corner. Oh, that's a big wiggle there. That could allow DB DeBest into the picture. DB DeBest, I will say, has relatively unchallenged Reimer so far this Grand Prix. We've seen leads in excess of 3 seconds between these two at some points in the Grand Prix, but as they make their way through the first corner, it looks as if Mazdaguy will get around Spaceman going down the pit straight. It's 0.2 of a second here in closing between the top two as they make their way through the S's here of Sector 1. Jeezy within 1/10.5 of the Ferrari of P. Gonzalez on a 5-second penalty for speeding to the pit lane, mind you. It's 1/10.5 in closing between the top two. Jacob now, will he look to the inside through the first Degner? It doesn't appear that that's going to be the case, as Reimer still has the lead, now bringing the grid towards the hairpin here. Into the corner they go. Reimer will kind of block off the inside line. That was going to be DB DeBest's best chance side by side, as I think, oh, Jeezy's in the gravel on the outside. That's odd. I'm not sure why he's out there. He was side by side with I believe it was P. Gonzalez, and that car went into the gravel. I'm thinking, was there contact involved? There pretty much has to be, as Mackey and Caesar battling it out here. Remember, this could be a battle for the eventual lead of the Grand Prix, and Caesar down to the inside. He is clearing our race leader as well as the Haas flat. So the previous race leader of Mackey, who looked to have a good grip on the rest of the field, loses 2 spots there. Exiting the spoon curve. That's a bit of a bold newsflash happening there. Reimer will lead the field to the stripe to begin the 15th lap of the Grand Prix. The Aston Martin V watches on as DB DeBest tries to get down the inside and succeeds in getting down the inside of Reimer into the first corner. I believe both these drivers in the hard tires. As a matter of fact, the top 6 all in the same 6-lap-old hard tires from which the first safety car had come out and they decided to pit. The closest battle now is that of Jacob, is about 1/10.5 back to Red 92 Mask. He's got both AlphaTauris ahead. It's a good-looking day so far for the AlphaTauri team, about halfway through this Grand Prix. And we see now, does Jacob try anything down to the inside? Red 92 mask cleverly blocks the inside line into the first Degner, although I kind of doubt Jacob was going to try anything there. That's a really ballsy place to try to make a move happen. Gonzalez nearly watching the McLaren spin around in front of him there. Good way to catch the car from Jacob, but he's going to be under pressure by the Ferrari in question. We'll have the penalty tracker open here. 3 drivers on 3-second time penalties. Gonzalez on a 5. Still not really any worrying clouds in sight. I'm thinking this race is going to go dry until the end. Reimer now behind DB to best by about 8.5 tenths here. The top 4 have relatively spread themselves out here from the rest of the grid, as now down to the inside, Jacob looks on Red 92 mask and does it crucially before 130R, although both drivers going off track there. I think we could have classified that as leaving the track and gaining an advantage, but both drivers had left the track, so there was no advantage to be gained as Slayer Eyes goes round. This is in the Latifi section of the final chicane there, as he loses spots now all the way back down to P15, and crucially, Mackie somewhere has lost position. He's down to P16, 27 seconds behind. As DJ now pitting here in the Haas. What does he choose? He chooses soft tires, does the Haas. Up through Dunlop curve now. Jacob has 0.4 of a second back to Tin Man. He was able to get past Red 92 mask in a good enough way. Let's see if he does the same to Red's teammate of Tin Man, who Tin Man, by the way, has had a great Grand Prix so far today. Up 7 positions. His teammate even better, up 11. Gonzalez up 12, currently belonging in the driver of the day front runner there, although I tell you what, should Tin Man pull off even a podium, we could absolutely see him being driver of the day. Gonzalez, reminder, does have the 5-second penalty to his name. That was a bit too far outside the spoon curve there for V as he made his way out. Reimer 6.5 tenths of a second behind DB to best, but I'm thinking, will we see Reimer begin to try to overtake in a virtual safety car on track? And I'm wondering who that's for. DJ is off, exiting the second Degner under the bridge, and I think we did have perhaps another car go round. No, I must be dreaming. So DJ loses the front wing as he exits the second Degner and goes under the bridge. Thankfully, it's only just the virtual safety car. DRS will be activated next time by Tin Man the Rowdy in the pits now. And let's see what Tin Man decides to do here. This is a bit of an odd time to pit here. Tin Man and Funky Breezy on the way in. It's the medium tires for the AlphaTauri. He'll drop all the way down to P12. So they'll have DRS exiting the final corner this time by. At the stripe this next time will be 10 laps to go. As the virtual safety car, I think, might be ending here shortly. I think we're going to see that here any second as both of these drivers trying to take advantage of their delta time. Now, the pace is supposed to reduce by at least 40%, I think the statistic is. It's either 40 or 60, something like that. You can play games around it, though, and have advantages be made for, using that delta time to your advantage. We'll have to wait and see what happens here. And it looks as if a couple of drivers picking up drive-thrus there, both Red 92 Mask and Funky Breezy both picking up drive-thru penalties, as Ghost getting around Gonzalez going through 200R. We'll see Caesar now attempt to overtake the Ferrari. He'll try the outside through the spoon curve. He's not going to have any luck there. But we'll have to wait and see. That's a shame for Red 92 Mask, who will have to serve that drive-thru in a timely fashion. 10 laps to go this time by. Reimer within 0.6 of a second on DB to best. Could that allow him to get a good enough run into the first corner to look to overtake the Red Bull ahead? I will say that Red Bull using a lot of his energy store. Reimer above 50%. Matter of fact, 60% for the Alpine, 8% for the Red Bull ahead. That tells me we could be looking at a slight bit of desperation for the Red Bull if he's using that much battery. Caesar getting around P. Gonzalez. They're side by side through the corner. Caesar now down below the other Red Bull, and a double overtake for Caesar through the first corner. What a move that was. Brilliant stuff there for Caesar, who, remember, chose the off strategy, pitting with Mackie under the second safety car and another virtual safety car on track. DJ in the Haas. Actually, no. What's happened there? Why do we have this? Oh, it's the other Haas. It's Slayer Eyes who's missing the front wing. So both Haas drivers losing front wings, causing 2 virtual safety car here as Slayer Eyes takes to the gravel. Well, I'd rather have the virtual than the full safety car, I'll say that much. Reimer, look how close he is to the back of DB DeBest here as they make their way down the backstretch. Again, we are under virtual safety car, as you can tell. One of these drivers may be looking at a drive-through penalty here. DB DeBest down to 37% battery. Reimer has conserved all of it, 95%. That Alpine, I think, may just be more comfortable on this track than the Red Bull ahead. He's not going to get DRS down the pit straight this time, as the virtual safety car is still on track. Pair of the Ferrari drivers, P7 and P8. It looks as if Gonzalez is going to come in. He'll look to serve that 5-second penalty. DRS enabled here. Ferrari pit boys making their way out. Oh, it's going to be a front wing change for the Ferrari here. Also, I'm thinking maybe did he make contact with Slayer Eyes, and that's why... Yeah, I would assume that's going to be the case there. I believe that's medium tires that have gone on for the Ferrari there and the front wing, and he served his 5-second time penalty. Fresh mediums for P. Gonzalez. Back to green we go. Reimer outside of a second now as... Oh, Ghost MV has gone off a top Dunlop corner and only another virtual safety car. And this is where we saw Anime Boy lose the car on his end, which brought out the full safety car. Albeit this time it's a little different with the Red Bull off the racing surface. So the third virtual safety car in the matter of probably 2 laps there. I'm just waiting to see if it does get upgraded to a full safety car. The car's been removed from the circuit. But yet another virtual safety car on track here. And I think pure error on the part of Ghost. It is quite easy to lose the car going up through Dunlop Curve. And I think that's exactly what's happened. Virtual safety car on track for the 3rd time today. Well, Reimer is, I hate to say it, but with all the virtual safety car coming out, Reimer is running out of opportunities to try to get around DB DeBest, I think. I mean, initially we thought the Red Bull was the faster car, but again, I think that Reimer, at least through the corners, is better. Although, I think maybe in the straight line that Red Bull might just be the better car at the moment. It's tough to tell. Currently, the closest battle on track is these 2 drivers battling for the lead of the Grand Prix. DB DeBest has a second advantage. Now, this is where his teammate had just lost the car a lap ago. We'll have 7 laps to go this next time by, as he leads Reimer up to the hairpin. We do have a neat, interesting thing going on here between the pair of the AlphaTauri drivers. It's 0.8 of a second. Kind of doubt there'll be any mischievous activity going on there, so we'll shy away from that battle for the time being. As they go through the backstretch now, DB DeBest has over a second advantage over Reimer. Both drivers, remember, equal on the tire strategies. Second pace now into the detection zone. Reimer will have DRS. That was really close. Less than 1/10 of a second separated Reimer from having and not having DRS. But look at the amount of battery that Reimer saved up here. Still about 50% as DB DeBest ahead, 6%. Down the pit straight they go. Reimer's able to shave off about 0.2 of a second. But he's not quite close enough to shave off any more of the gap. Making their way through the S curves now. DB DeBest has the lead still. Up through Dunlop Curve. It looks as if DB DeBest looking quite comfortable, it has to be said. Which is, I'm a little surprised. Maybe that could have been the reason why we're not seeing Reimer take this spot immediately. As Mackey's setting the fastest lap here down at P11. I think maybe that's why we're not seeing Reimer overtake the Red Bull at the moment, is that these virtual safety cars are just kind of ruining his rhythm. perhaps. Rhythm is so crucial when you're a driver, and I think DB DeBest has been able to maintain it just a little bit better than his dueling partner behind. Although 0.6 of a second, and well, I tell you what, I was going to say starting to close, staying quite stagnant now as V picks up a 3-second time penalty in third. At the moment, he won't be losing that spot back to Jacob. About 4 seconds the gap there. Through 130R they go. 5.5 of a second now. Reimer is closing in on this Red Bull. Is he closing in enough to consider a move down the pit straight? He'll have DRS as he exits the final corner, and it's activated now. To the inside moves DB DeBest. Reimer, I think, has enough battery to at least attempt to challenge on the outside here. And unfortunately, Reimer's still not close enough to make that happen. Although I don't really think Reimer is... I don't want to say he's not trying, but he's got a lot more battery in that car than DB DeBest. DB is using it to defend. So I'm curious as to why Reimer is not necessarily... going for it quite yet. What we do have now is a close battle here between Red 92 Mask and Mackie for the 10th spot. Mackie had just overtaken the AlphaTauri not too long ago, and now we're seeing Mackie begin to take off. It's a second advantage by the time they even cross the line. Speaking of second advantages, that's what DB DeBest has to Reimer here as they make their way through the hairpin. A little bit of oversteer for DB DeBest, nothing to be concerned about. We'll have 5 laps to go at the stripe this time by. 0.8 of a second into the spoon curve they go. Yellow flag going through the Degners. I think maybe it was between the Ferrari of Gonzalez and Jeezy there. At 6.5. 5 laps to go this time by. Down the pit straight they go, and still not even really a sniff of an overtake from Reimer here. Although he's made up a significant amount of time. It's down to 0.5 of a second now from the 8 it was before they got DRS. Currently the battle for P8 here as Spaceman up to 8th. After starting P18 up 10 spots, doing well so far. He'll be under pressure from Tin Man. And Tin Man's going to have to look around the outside here, and I think maybe that AlphaTauri is on better tires. Well, actually, that's not well, I mean, barely. 4 laps, I mean, that's at racing speed, that's a good number. Otherwise, it's not really that big of a deal. 3-car battle now as Mackie trying to make his way in here. Remember, this is the battle for P8. Oh, contact there! And Mackie gets into the back end of the Aston Martin. And I'm hoping there was no wing damage involved for the Williams, because he really did, noticeably get into the back of Spaceman there. Not enough to send the car around, but enough to, I think, alarm Spaceman. Down the backstretch they go now. DB still has the lead spot here as Mackie making his move around the Aston Martin. That is coming out of the second Degner into the hairpin. Another close battle happening now. Jacob is getting under pressure from Caesar for the 4th spot. 4 laps to go this time by. Reimer, again, not quite close enough to make anything happen. That car just does not look quick in the straight line, although what I will say is this. He is, I think, getting close enough to make something happen. Is he perhaps just trying to wear down the Red Bull? Which is a very valid strategy. We do oftentimes see, drivers attempt to wear down the car ahead, and it does work. But to DB DeBest's credit, he does have the second advantage over Reimer. You wear down a driver more by having to defend against him, not just necessarily acknowledging his presence. So Reimer's going to have to close his way in a little bit here. We have 0.8 of a second between Caesar and Jacob for the 4th spot. 3 laps to go this time by here in the Japanese Grand Prix. A lot of good battling on track today. We've lost the 3 drivers of Ghost, Anime Boy, and Zach. All 3 of which, their own separate incidents. Only the 2 safety car on track, 3 virtual safety car. Which you don't oftentimes see more virtual than real. In this game, I feel as if we don't see virtual safety car nearly as often as we should. A lot of times we see the safety car for incidents that hardly even are enough for just plain yellow flags. 3 laps to go now. Reimer is almost outside of a second on the Red Bull ahead. Into the final chicane they go. This is for the 4th spot here. Caesar, who pit alongside Mackey under the 2nd safety car, really thought he was going to have a tough time clawing his way back here. He's up to 4th, and if he can get within 3 seconds of V, he will have the 3rd spot, and what will be a great bounce-back day for the Mercedes. That'll put him on even level pegging there with where he started, as well as Reimer. DB DeBest will be up 3 positions. Mazda guy will be up 8. It's been a good day for him, although I believe he has a penalty. Mackey getting around Tin Man the Rowdy down the pit straight. Yes, he does. Mackey had a bit of an incident earlier in the race. That was why we don't see him battling for the lead now. Again, he was on equal strategy with Caesar, but I believe had some sort of an incident within a couple of laps of the safety car ending. Shame we didn't really get a look as to what was happening, but what we do know is something has hindered the progress of Mackey, and he's not going to quite be happy with that. As Funky Breezy gets around Jeezy, that's about the most fun sentence I've ever had to say on a cast. 9/10 of a second here between the top 2. Reimer running out of time here. That is just the reality of the situation. Jacob 4/10 of a second in closing. Down the pit straight the leaders go. These 2 making their way into the chicane now. Reimer closing in on DB DeBest, but again, not quite close enough to make anything happen, although what I will say, he shaved about 2/10 of a second off of the Red Bull here. More than that, he's now within 3.5. If he can get away well, he could seriously pressure DB DeBest here on this, final lap and a half of the Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see. Reimer used a lot more battery that last time than he has previously. 35% to DB's 10%. DB has not been using his battery that much, and, well, if he has, that would explain why it stayed pretty much within 10% or more, or less. Up through Dunlop Curve is the battle for P4. Caesar, who initially had gotten the move over Jacob. By the way, Caesar is about 0.5 of a second away from getting the 3rd spot after V's time penalty comes into play. But it's a 0.5 second for the lead for the Grand Prix as they make their way into the Spoon Curve now. This is the quickest we've seen Reimer pretty much throughout this final stint so far. I think maybe was he just saving his tires enough to make himself kind of relevant coming to the final DRS stretch they'll have now. Down the pit straight. Jacob within 2.5 here. We'll go with them in a minute, but now Reimer within 0.4 of a second and closing as he makes his way into the chicane for the penultimate time. Reimer has hit the brakes too deep and will have to go across the chicane. Oh, and DB DeBest loses it ahead and gets into Reimer. Huge accident. DB DeBest lost the car all on his own. Reimer tried to sneak his way to the inside and got gobbled up between the Red Bull spinning and the entry to the pit lane. And somehow, Reimer does not find the end of this Grand Prix. And I hate to say it, but there's really nothing that DB DeBest did wrong unless... Did he move to the inside? Oh, but look at this! Oh, and there's contact! DB DeBest missing the entirety of his front wing! He collides with the Aston Martin, and now Caesar could have a chance! DB DeBest does not have a front wing! Jacob and Caesar both have an opportunity to battle for the lead here! DB DeBest taking the right side! He's gonna lose the lead here! And now who's gonna get it? Because Caesar pulls away! He's in the way of Jacob now! Jacob nearly wants to push the Red Bull off the track because he's in the way! In one of the most calamity-filled final laps of a Grand Prix that I have ever witnessed, we now have the Mercedes of Caesar on top. Have you ever? I certainly haven't. And again, I'll have to look at it again, but I'm not quite sure that the Red Bull did anything noticeably wrong. My question is, when the car spun, did he move from his position? If that's the case and he moved into the path of Reimer, that will be enough for a penalty. But we won't have to worry about that now, at least pertaining to the win of the Grand Prix, because Caesar making his way in and out of the chicane for the final time. I don't know how the hell he did it. I'm sure he doesn't either, but Caesar will win the Grand Prix. Jacob finishes second. DB to best minus the front wing finishes third. Although, of course, there may be penalties applied after. Mackey will finish sixth. Holy shit, what did I just see? I mean, I tell you what, I've casted over 150 Grand Prix across various leagues. I have never once seen a normal race take place. You know, by anyone's standard, there's always something that happens there. Perhaps it's just me thing. Maybe perhaps do I bless the track with a good race at the end of it. But I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. Caesar wins the race. He may want to consider buying lottery tickets. He probably won't win, but he'll at least get 2 numbers. Well, he'll take the top spot of the podium here. I mean, goodness me. So, keeping in mind that steward reports have yet to be applied, Caesar takes the top spot, Jacob second, DB to best third minus the front wing, Gab fourth, V fifth, Mackey sixth, good bounce back for him, Tin Man seventh, Mazda Guy eighth, Red 92 Mask ninth, Spaceman 10th, Gonzalez 11th, Funky Breezy 12th, Jeezy 13th, DJE Flat 14th, Slayerized 15th, and unfortunately for Reimer and everyone on the way back, they will not be able to finish the Grand Prix. And, well, a lot of exciting action happening here on a track which in real life doesn't always provide it. Next week we go to somewhere where it does, at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I want to thank you now for allowing us into your homes at Hotspot. It's been a pleasure joining you this time out. We'll see you next week.